What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. I'm once again joined by Oscar to talk about some fights. I actually missed the intro, but we're going to keep it rolling. How's it going, Oscar?
It's going awesome. That card delivered in every way in relation to violence. We saw bones break, we saw blood spilled, and we saw some awesome finishes. Let's get right into it.
As you mentioned, blood spilled, bones broken, and let's talk about the main event of the evening. An enticing matchup for the UFC Lightweight Championship. It went down. There was going to be a new champion. I think it was 1,154 days since there would be another champion other than Khabib Nurmagomedov, and Oliveira took the belt off nobody, but he took the belt off Chandler, let us say, because in that first round it looked like it was going Chandler's way. Would you agree?
Yeah, two judges even believed it was a 10-8 round because Michael Chandler may have gotten his back taken and was in some compromising positions, but early in the fight he had Charles wanting none of the exchanges on the feet, and right at the last sequences of the first round he had Oliveira desperately hurt, and I thought they were going to stop the fight right then and there. I got out of my seat, and I was ready to celebrate my correct second round knockout pick of Chandler, but Charles Oliveira said nope in that second round, and what does he do? He connects with a picture-perfect left hook, and he does not allow Michael Chandler to recover. And Charles Oliveira actually believed that this would happen. Everybody's always talking about his jiu-jitsu. He's got the most submissions in the UFC. But what does he show out there? He shows excellent striking, striking that is so good, it appears that it's catching up to his grappling ability. So all the props in the world to Charles Oliveira. And that celebration was awesome. You now see videos of him in Brazil celebrating. I'm really happy for the guy. He surpassed Michael Bisping for the most fights in the UFC before winning a championship, and he took the hard, long path to the belt, and it's really cool to see him get the belt, even though I was rooting super hard for Chandler.
Not only did he create history on the night, winning the belt and surpassing, the great Michael Bisping, he surpassed my expectations. I really thought Michael Chandler was going to go into this fight, maybe, do what he normally does, bounce up and down. He always does that little kind of squat, when he goes to jab to the body. He does that really well. The way he changes levels is quick. He's explosive. And I thought in this fight, he's going to explode in, catch him with a left hook, and it'll be a TKO finish in the first or second round. But, oh, man, did Oliveira shut me up, and he shut me up quick. It was the second round. The second round cursed happened again. This is incredible. 2021 is becoming an incredible, shall I call it an event on its own, because this second round curse is ridiculous. Look at the fights that are finishing the second round. Usman versus Masvidal, Oliveira versus Chandler. I'm off the top of my head, I can't really think of a lot. McGregor versus Poirier. So next main event, Adesanya versus Marvin Vettori. Bet on a second round finish.
Hey, that's never a bad bet these days. I know DraftKings has an alternative ending round to a fight, so you can bet on that. And this right here was exactly what I expected in terms of the quality of the fight. Charles Oliveira had a lot of tools to submit, I would say 99% of the UFC roster, but could he submit Michael Chandler? No, he could not. Michael Chandler had a short neck, short arms, and above all for Michael Chandler, he really showed me that he might have the best jiu-jitsu defense in the entire lightweight division, because when Charles Oliveira has your back, I would say 99% of the time it's over.
Yeah, you mentioned there when Charles Oliveira had his back, and it was early on in the first round too. I thought, this could be a wrap real quick, because Charles Oliveira, as you mentioned, the best BJJ in probably the lightweight division, and he's on your back early within a minute, and you're fresh, no sweat, you're clean. It could have been a wrap, but Charles Chandler, stayed calm, stayed composed, got out of the submission, and then almost submitted Oliveira with that guillotine, but he let it go.
Yeah, Oliveira was not going to get submitted by that. And Michael Chandler also was doing some good stuff offensively on the ground. He actually let Charles Oliveira work off of his back. he went down to the ground with him when he could have just let him get up. And I actually think that might have cost him. The Oliveira corner gave Charles the right advice he needed to win that fight. And if it stayed on the feet, maybe just a minute longer, we might be talking about how good Michael Chandler is. But if these guys fight 10 times, I think it's even Steven. Those guys were very competitive in there, and I would love to see a rematch one day.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. If this does fight happen 10 times, I'm leaving 6 wins for Chandler, 4 wins for Oliveira. If Michael Chandler fixes his mistakes, I think he goes in there the better man in the rematch and wins it. In that first round, we saw how good he is. He looked dominant, knocked him down. But the problem you mentioned there is he followed Oliveira after he knocked him down. If I was Chandler's coach, in his corner, I'm screaming at him, step back, let him get up, you've got him hurt, and then who knows what will happen. As you mentioned, if he let him get up, we could be speaking about how good Michael Chandler is right now.
Yep, Charles Oliveira showed that he has really proved himself and cemented himself at the top of the division. Even us two, we had some doubts about Charles. We looked at some of the names and the quality of competition, and we had real doubts, but when you look at how good this guy is now, I think he gives tough fights to pretty much anybody in the top 5. I believe he will end up fighting the winner of Dustin Poirier and Conor McGregor on July 10th. That only makes sense. Of course, crazier things have happened than fights that seemed very obvious not happening. We have Justin Gaethje out there. Beneil Dariush just got it done, and he's on a biggest win streak in the division. There's a lot of interesting ways that this can go, but obviously the Poirier and Oliveira fight, that should have been the title fight, if you ask me.
Yeah, who knows? We might even see a quick turnaround from Oliveira and, maybe get him on the same card as McGregor versus Poirier and put a co-main event on Oliveira versus Dariush. I'm not saying it's out of the ordinary. It's definitely possible. But, Justin Gaethje's sat there waiting in the wings too. So maybe Justin Gaethje versus Beneil Dariush. That one, yeah, definitely could make sense. But as you mentioned, Oliveira definitely gets the winner of Dustin Poirier versus McGregor, in my opinion. It has to be. Whoever wins that fight, goes on to fight Oliveira for the belt. And the real question is, does Oliveira beat Poirier or McGregor if whoever wins that? And I don't want to underestimate him again, but I don't know about this one.
Yeah, Charles Oliveira is actually the underdog, according to certain betting sites, against both opponents. Although Dustin Poirier is a black belt in jiu-jitsu, he has been submitted before. But in Conor's case, I think that's a horrendous matchup for Conor. But we'll see. There's so many ways this division can end up, and as the great Michael Bisping said, we might be in the Oliveira.
Hey, you can't steal someone's line like that. Come on, Oscar. I was better a little bit better than you. Yeah, but it's a great performance. It was great performance from Oliveira, and I fully expected Michael Chandler to go into this fight, and I expected a finish really, really early, and Oliveira, exceeded my expectations. I shall never doubt him again going into a fight unless it's against Dustin Poirier or Justin Gaethje. I think Justin Gaethje has enough to get him done.
Hey, maybe even Paul Felder, because he had him tapping his shoulder. I was getting smashed in the face with elbow. So I wouldn't be so quick to pick Charles against Felder in a rematch. And a rematch that I would never want to see ever is Tony Ferguson against Beneil Dariush. This fight was not entertaining at all. And to be honest, we picked this fight with our hearts above all else. We assumed Beneil Dariush would go away from the game plan. He would get in a fist fight and maybe Tony would land something, but that was not the case. Tony Ferguson, he got his leg messed up by that heel hook in the second round. You saw the agony on his face. He's one of the toughest men I've ever seen compete in the octagon, and Tony is definitely out of the title picture, out of the top 5, and in my opinion, he probably will never return to form, because this showed that he simply does not have the tools to compete at the highest level anymore. I don't know what you can exactly blame for it. Dean Thomas said maybe his fundamentals aren't there. I don't know about that, but there's definitely something going wrong here, and it's really hard to see. It's very hard to see, and I will probably not pick against Tony again. And the best route for Tony next, I don't think it should be retirement. I just think it should be a significant step down in competition, preferably a striker. Because if you put him in there with Islam Makhachev, Arman Sarukian, any of these high-level grapplers, you're going to be snoring at the end of the fight because Tony just doesn't not have the tools to make those fight competitive anymore.
Not only are you going to be snoring, you're also going to be crying because it's so sad to watch Tony Ferguson, lose. The way he's, been losing against Justin Gaethje. Yes, that was more of a stand-up striking affair, but Justin Gaethje had his number that night and he absolutely brutalized him. And then Oliveira, it just dominated him. And then Dariush dominated him. It's weird seeing this happen because, when I, started to watch MMA, Tony Ferguson was on the come up. He had this, big famous win streak. This was the guy, when I watched him, he was the boogeyman. He was always the guy to, overcome adversity and come back and find a way back into the fight and win the fight. We've seen it many, many times in Tony Ferguson's career, but it just feels like he just doesn't have it anymore. I think Tony Ferguson will never be a top 5 again. I think the age played a massive, massive factor. He's definitely slowing down. Just doesn't have the tools anymore, as Oscar said. I don't think, as I mentioned, I don't think we'll see him in the top 5 anymore, and I don't think we'll see him at lightweight. I believe Tony Ferguson will make it back, a jump back to his, the weight class where he started at welterweight, and where he entered on tough. He went on tough at welterweight, and I believe he'll make a return back to 170 pounds.
Yeah, I would love to see him against Matt Brown or Carlos Condit. Some fights that would simply just be for fun. They would not have any real impact on the rankings or anything like that. It would, or maybe Nick Diaz. Nick Diaz doesn't have a fight. That's probably a match made in heaven right now, if you ask me. So there's a lot of good options for Tony right now, but none of them are in the top 15 at 170 or 155.
See, I'm very fond of maybe, Tony Ferguson versus Donald Cerrone at 170 pounds. I think that one, at the moment, both men need a massive win. Donald Cerrone, if he loses one more, Dana White said, that's it. That's him done in UFC. And Tony Ferguson, this guy, he's on a 3-fight losing streak now. They're both men need a massive win. Definitely a fight. Mitch Stengs. But if Tony Ferguson is staying at 155 pounds, maybe a fight against, someone like Clay Guida, a very winnable fight. But he is a grappler, though, so...
Hey, I honestly would not even rely on Tony Ferguson to beat Clay Guida at this point. That's how bad his bottom game is looking. So Tony Ferguson does not have a lot of excellent options right now, but Beneil Dariush does. He's on a 7-fight win streak. He's looking better and better. He's sticking to the game plan more, and he's letting his hands go now. He's looking really good these days, and I think he's not going to get. I don't think he's going to be exposed like he was against the top competition in the past. You remember the Edison Barboza fight where he just got kneed in the face, and he also got knocked out by Alexander Hernandez in like 30 seconds. Those were really bad looks for him. And since then, I think he's just gotten exponentially better, and he's ready for what I think would be a really big fight for him in the top 5 against Michael Chandler. You want to know why that makes a ton of sense? Both guys want to go back to their families, they want to relax, and they want to fight a little later in the year, and that makes a ton of sense to me right now. Michael Chandler almost got his hand raised in that fight, so I think that makes a ton of sense, and stylistically, it would be very fascinating. It's kind of similar to the Charles Oliveira fight, but right now I would lean Michael Chandler because he has that crazy power.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Moving on to a bantamweight fight, but between a pair of flyweights, I was trying to get out. Matt Chanel versus Rodrigo Bonatin took place. It was a fantastic affair. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, this fight didn't really stick out that much on the card to me, especially after we saw Bontorin have a really unfortunate weight miss. I think on commentary they were talking about this guy weighing north of 160 pounds. That's absolutely insane.
Yeah.
Rosario Bontorin needs to be more disciplined. I know he took this on short notice, but that's kind of unexcusable. And if I was a betting man, I would not bet on him to weigh in at the limit for flyweight when he returns there. So though I think Bontorin should fight Alex Perez next, who even knows if the guy can make the weight anymore? This guy looks pretty big for such a short man. The guy's only 5'5". And Matt Schnell was definitely affected by that in this fight, if you ask me. So I don't take a ton from this fight because this was a big guy fighting a smaller guy. So Matt Schnell should keep his head up there. He showed some heart in there. He was fighting for like 2 minutes without a mouthpiece at some point in that fight. I don't know why he didn't call the referee to get it, but Bontorin's pretty solid, man. Pretty solid, but who knows what you can take away from this fight? Because with the weight cut last time, he got knocked out in the first round. So I don't know what's next for Bontorin. Maybe Alex Perez, but very weird fight with the weight miss, if you ask me.
Yeah, see, this might be a blessing in disguise for Bontorin. If he makes himself, get dedicated, because he missed the weight, so that could be, a major factor of how he looks at fights in the future. We might see him get more disciplined, making that way, and he might make a return back to 125 pounds. But this also could play factor in like bantamweight, because he looked good at bantamweight against versus Matt Schnell, so he might think, maybe I'll make the move up to bantamweight and be more healthier, even though he did miss weight. But if he had a full camp, I presume he would make that weight fairly easily if he did make 125 pounds, but I do believe he'll make 135 pounds with easier than he would do 125 pounds, obviously. So this might be a bit of a blessing in disguise for Bontorin, because he might eventually move up to bantamweight because he looked good there.
Yeah, he did. At the scale, he didn't look like a skeleton. We've seen Max Holloway looking like a skeleton on that scale at times. It appeared that maybe he didn't do everything he could to make the weight. But at the end of the day, I think that definitely played a role in this fight. And Matt Schnell beats him at flyweight like we predicted, but that was certainly not the night for that to happen.
Yeah, a pair of flyweights went to battle, and it was a great fight. They definitely put on a show. But a pair of women flyweights put on a fight as well. Katlyn Chookagian versus Viviana Araujo happened at UFC 262 on the main card, and Katlyn Chookagian got a hand raised. It was definitely, I believe, the right decision. It was a great fight between the pair, but the 30-27, I didn't really think that was the right scorecard.
Yeah. When I was watching it live, I actually scored the fight for Araujo. I believe that Araujo studied Chookagian's tape well. There's a lot of tape out there on Katlyn Chookagian, and rarely does she ever change her approach heading into these fights. They already figured it out. They knew that she was a point fighter, so they had to be aggressive. And as I said, they figured it out, and they fought very well. Viviana Araujo fought very well in the first half of the fight, but unfortunately, she does not have the cardio to keep up that pace. And eventually, that's what led to Chookagian getting the win here. Chookagian had better cardio, and she was able to do some significant damage in the second part of the second round. And in the third round, she absolutely pieced her up. Viviana Araujo was exhausted, and I don't know why the fake tap was replayed or anything like that, but you have to give Araujo some props for putting a Gracie black belt in a guillotine that deep in the second round. So that's why I ultimately gave the fight to Araujo, because of her success early in the second round.
Look at the strikes, these women threw in the fight. 300 from Katlyn Chookagian and 238. That's so impressive for both women. It was a great effort as well from Viviana Araujo. As you mentioned, she studied her opponent well. She fell short, But I think when it comes to these top 10s, top 15s, the prospects, I feel like they have to go through Katlyn Chookagian, and I feel like they're gonna fall short every time. I think she's like the contender killer, but when she gets to like the champion Valentina Shevchenko, it's not going to go her way. And we've seen what happened in the first fight. Valentina Shevchenko is just levels above anybody in the division. But I feel like Katlyn Chookagian is the second woman in the division, but she's just not good enough to beat Valentina Shevchenko.
Oh, well, the second best woman in the division is Jessica Andrade. She dropped Katlyn Chookagian with a body shot and had her in the fetal position. But nonetheless, as you said, Katlyn Chookagian is a real threat to any of the lower level women's flyweight division. But as you just mentioned, when she fought Valentina, it was not competitive at all. So she's at a really awkward spot in the division. They keep on trying to build up these contenders by fighting her, and she outpoints them, she outstrikes them. So this is a tough spot for Katlyn Chookagian, especially since retirement is knocking on the door anytime now. She keeps on saying she wants to have a child, and who knows when that happens. But Katlyn Chookagian is at a weird spot, and she's fought a lot of the people in this division already. But ultimately, she called out Alexa Grasso, who's outside of the top 10. That's how many people she's already beat or already booked. So what makes sense the most to me is the loser of Lauren Murphy and Joanne Calderwood.
Yeah, or maybe even just rematch Katlyn Chookagian versus Jessica Andrade.
I have no appetite for that. Jessica Andrade was actually winning that fight prior to that, and we saw there was a major strength and size discrepancy. But who knows? Maybe Jessica would have faded like Araujo did, but I don't think we'll find out if that happens. But good win for Katlyn Chookagian here. And outside of the early prelims, that was my only correct pick.
That was your only correct pick?
Outside of the 3 early prelims.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that's wasn't a good night for me. Wasn't a good night for you. But it's not been a good, should we say, a good ending for Katlyn Chookagian's Twitter. Don't go look on her.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why
please. Yeah, please don't go on her Twitter. I had to see what it was because it all this fuss. But it was just, I just had to see what this fuss was about, and it was, made me laugh a little bit. But yeah, she took the joke really well. She's clearly been hacked, but we're moving on. PG-18, ladies and gentlemen. Moving back to the fight. A featherweight showdown between top 15, top of the best featherweights in the division. Shane Burgos versus Edison Barboza clashed, and oh my god, was it an incredible fight. Definitely, maybe possibly fight of the year contender. This was a very, very good fight. And then the knockout in round number 3. It was interesting because it was such a delayed reaction from Shane Burgos. It was scary, if you knew what I mean. It was scary because it could have really caused serious harm. It was a bit of like in me about, is he okay? Like it looked like a tough fall, a very bad knockout, and the way he fell back and his body just gave up on him. It was scary, and the health of Shane Burgos definitely came first in that fight, and I'm glad he's okay. But man, it was a good performance for both men, a great fight. And then, the knockout, it was a perfectly placed punch right on the temple. Shane Burgos took it, and then the body shut down. It was a weird one. One in a lifetime that we'll probably ever see. But it was a great fight, great performance for both men. Fantastic fight. Edson Barboza is looking like a rejuvenated fighter, 145 pounds. Until he probably takes on a wrestler or someone like that, he really needs to get tested. Who I'd like to see him take on next is maybe Yair Rodriguez or maybe Giga Chikadze, because I think the fight versus Giga Chikadze would be electric.
Yeah, I actually think of all people, it should be Calvin Kattar Those guys actually
Oh
have
yeah.
similar target return dates. And Calvin Kattar, he got the crap beat out of him by Max Holloway back in January, but he's been itching to get back in there by his coach's best wishes. So we could very well see that. And as you mentioned, Barboza should be fighting strikers. All in the name of fun, let's be honest. Grappler like Ryan Hall would probably not be the best of matchups for him. So let's just do it in the name of fun. And this fight was in the name of fun. We all said this would be fight of the night, and it was. The amount of punishment these two absorbed was magnificent. Early in the fight, Shane Burgos did try to pressure him like I thought he would, but Barboza was able to negate it with those leg kicks. Those leg kicks were thunderous. They were very impactful on Shane Burgos' movement later in the fight. And Barboza came out with the right game plan. He was able to predict what Burgos was going to be able to do. And for how good Barboza's kickboxing was, his boxing was really on point, and it won him the fight, as you said, with that really strange knockout where Burgos mentally wanted to be there, but physically he was unable to be there. And all props to Edson Barboza here. I had some doubts about the guy. He has not won a ton as of late, and at this new weight class, it looks like it's working for him. He actually admitted to forcing himself to walk around heavy for lightweight. So maybe this is where Edson should have been all along. So Edson Barboza is now in the top 10. He should be fighting one of those great strikers. And for Shane Burgos, there's really nothing else in his future but to rest up. That was a really scary knockout. And tremendous fight there. And that definitely delivered in the violence aspect. And talking about violence, we saw a man's arm break, and we were able to hear the bone snap. Let's talk about Andre Muniz against Ronaldo Jacare Souza. This was ridiculous. The commentators were clowning Muniz on the desk. They were talking about, what are you talking about? You're a better grappler than Jacare Souza. They were almost saying that it was disrespectful, And Muniz called it shot. And he delivered on his promise. He submitted Jacare late in the first round, and he really couldn't have looked better. I don't care if Jacare's 80. A submission over Jacare is very impressive. That guy has not been submitted since 2005 in competition. I believe it was Hodge Gracie who did it. He tucked his arm back into his gi and he kept fighting. If the ref had not separated them, I believe Jacare would have still fought. So Jacare is a complete savage, and he looked like to me, I let out more pain. I let out a scream when I stubbed my toe, and Jacare was basically emotionless. So Jacare is a tough guy, and I would not be surprised if this is the end of his run in the UFC. I believe he's won 6 of his last 8. Lost 6 of his last 8.
Wow. That's very tough to see because, when you're looking at, these veterans, the Tony Ferguson, Donald Cerrone, Souza, they're all in losing streaks, and they're just like these guys, that you used to watch growing up as being an MMA fan. It's just tough to see them not get their hand raised and lose in just such devastating fashion. And yeah, watching his arm get broken, watching Souza get submitted. I just never thought I'd really see the day, because this guy is probably one of the best BJJ practitioners that we would ever have in the MMA sport. And he got submitted. He got his arm broke against Andre Muniz. And credit to Andre, because before the fight, he said he would submit Jacare, and he did what he said he was going to do. So credit to where it's due, because he went in there, did what he did, and submitted Jacare Souza, broke his arm. And whether Andre Muniz goes on to be a failure inside the UFC now, he will always be remembered as the guy who submitted Jacare Souza and broke his arm for the rest of his career. He's basically submitted his legacy already, but he's got a great future in front of him. He's got great potential. Some fights in front of him. Maybe a fight next with Ian Heinisch would make a lot of sense.
I believe Ian Heinisch is already booked. I believe Muniz has a lot of good options. This middleweight division is not talked about enough. There's so many talented guys. I believe the guy that should be next for him is Krzysztof Jotko. Jotko actually just got a shot at a ranked opponent in Sean Strickland. He failed there, and I think Muniz is very close to the rankings, especially with how impressive that victory was. So a talented striker like Jotko would be the right test for Muniz in his career right now. Makes all the sense of the world to me.
Yeah, you mentioned Ian Heine is booked. Yes, he is booked to get Nasruddin Imavov. I forgot about that. I remember now. But maybe KG, maybe Kelvin Gastelum. You know, he's on a bit of a loser streak as of late. Three losses in his last four. It would definitely make sense, as you mentioned as well. A fight versus Krzysztof Jotko would also make sense. I'm very fond of both fights. But yeah, it's time for him to get that little bit of a step up in competition. Maybe KG, maybe Krzysztof Jotko. Krzysztof Jotko recently just got called out by Kevin Holland. So we'll see what happens there. Anyway, moving on to a fight, which was Oscar's lock of the night, should we call it? His most confident pick. What happened here?
What happened here was Lando Veneta is an absolute beast at featherweight. This guy looks like a new fighter out there. I picked Mike Grundy with great confidence because he was the better wrestler in there, and I thought he would be able to stay safe on the feet here. He did stay safe on the feet, but the problem was he did not let his hands go. He was very timid on the feet whenever they were up, and we saw him actually stun Lando Veneta on multiple occasions, and he just did not follow it up. Maybe if he had some combos in there, he could have put away Veneta, but he was just too timid on the feet. Just a little earlier in his MMA career than I would like for him to dominate Lando Veneta like that. Lando Veneta had a tremendous takedown defense. It was nearly jaw-dropping for me, especially since I had money on Mike Grundy. I was thinking that Mike Grundy would be able to keep him down, but that was not the case. And Lando actually got a takedown of his own in the third round. And to see a 30-27 judge scorecard for Mike Grundy was, even though it kind of made me happy in the moment because I bet on him, it was disgusting and egregious. So Mike Grundy, he had his moments in the fight, but it was pretty obvious to me that that it was at least a 29-28, if not a 30-27 for Lando Veneta, who got it done with style points. What do you think about Lando Veneta at this new weight class?
Yeah, 145. I think it suits him. It's a good weight class for him. He looked great. His takedown defense was, which I was more impressed with. That's what I really was seeing this fight, and it's where I expected the fight to go. And you know, Mike Grundy is a Commonwealth champion. This guy is an incredible wrestler, and he has all the accolades, the belt, the medals, the trophies to back it up. This guy is an incredible wrestler. He was on the Team GB Olympics, wrestling team. This guy has the accolades, he has the accomplishments to back it up. But Lando Veneta showed that, when it comes to MMA, if you have that takedown defense sorted, you can keep these wrestlers off. And that's exactly what Lando Veneta done. His takedown defense was incredible. It is impeccable, to say the least. 3 out of 20 takedowns were landed from Mike Grundy. He defended 17, and Lando Veneta tried to get one takedown of his own, and he succeeded. So he was 1-on-1 out of takedowns. It was crazy to see. And on the feet, we know how good Lando Veneta is on the feet. He's called groovy for a reason. He's funky. He's unpredictable. You don't know what he's going to throw at you. And that's what it means for Lando Veneta. He looks great, 145 pounds. I would love a great matchup with him next against... I had it in the top of my head. I can't remember now, but Oscar, who would you like to see next?
Yeah, I'm going to put him against another very dangerous grappler, a guy who is historically tough, who always brings a good fight. I want to see him against Darren Elkins.
Let me find my matchup. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was. Ooh, I'll get back to you in 2 seconds.
All right. Darren Elkins will 100% have the same approach as Mike Grundy, but the difference here is in the jiu-jitsu department, I think he could cause some problems for Viviana. We saw Viviana submitted by Tony Ferguson in his debut with a dart stroke after he gassed out. And what's the story of Darren Elkins' career? His opponents gassing out and him hopping on a submission or getting the late finish, especially in the third round. Oh, that happened in his last fight against Garagori. And what happened in the Mirsad Bektic fight? That was a legendary comeback. He was absolutely getting out wrestled for the entirety of 2 rounds. Everybody and their mother probably walked away from the TV and got a snack because they were all very confident that Bektic was going to be able to continue his dominance. And what happens? He gets a tremendous knockout head kick in the third round. So you can never count out Darren Elkins. For those that would be saying that Viviana would probably piece him up on the feet, it's probably true, but you can never count out Darren Elkins, and that's why that matchup would be so much fun, and it would probably be the fight of the night. So as Lenny continues to find his pick here, I'll talk about what should be next for Mike Grundy. Darren Till said that he cut no corners in his preparation for this fight. Mike Grundy has, he has nothing to be ashamed of. Even though he is 35, you can tell that his skill set is not entirely polished. So if he polishes up a little more, a couple more things, and really lets his hands go, he can be a real threat to a lot of guys. In our preview, we said great things about Mike Grundy, and I still stand by him. It's just that Lando Veneta was so good. Mike Grundy had a competitive grappling match with Movsar Evelev, who's undefeated. He's got a fight coming up against Hakeem Dawodu. And, man, this featherweight division is so stacked. Mike Grundy has so many good options, and I think what should be next is Makwan Amirkhani. Makwan Amirkhani has, a really good grappling game. And is that your pick for Lando Veneta, Lenny?
You just put it in my head. That was my pick for Lando Veneta.
Wow, yeah. Makwan Amirkhani is a good test for anybody on the ground. The guy who opened up the main card, Edison Barboza, he had to go past that test, and he passed it with flying colors. So if Lando Veneta can do what Edson Barboza did to Makwan Amirkhani, I think he could be ready for the top 15 ranks. What do you think about the possible outcome in that matchup between Veneta and Amirkhani?
Yeah, it's a good matchup for both men. Lando Veneta gets tested once again with his wrestling, his BJJ, and then Makwan Amirkhani gets to look to correct the mistakes against Edson Barboza. He looks to get another shot at a striker and see where he went wrong in Edson Barboza, and then correct the mistakes, and then make an improved performance versus Lando Veneta. So he's getting another chance at a striker and seeing how he gets on. But yeah, he's a great grappler. We know how good Makwan Amirkhani is, and he could definitely pose some trouble if he gets the fight to the floor. It's a great matchup. I think they're two likable characters, both with a good following as well inside the UFC. It's definitely a fight that definitely makes sense at the moment.
It absolutely does. And what makes a lot of sense for moving on, let's go to the middleweight fight between Jordan Wright and Jamie Pickett. A matchup that really stuck out to me because Jamie Pickett and Jordan Wright both have not been fighting the best of competition. I think he might need somewhat of a step up in competition for Jordan Wright after pretty much a blowout here. Jordan Wright should fight Dustin Stolfus. He did look really impressive on the Contender Series. He broke a guy's arm with a tremendous slam, and he had a pretty good fight against Kaldakis. He did get pieced up on the feet in that fight, but we saw that he's got some real heart in there, and I think he would be a good test for a young kid in Jordan Wright, who I really underestimated heading into this. We all said that his durability is probably not there. He's not that motivated, and he proved us wrong here. Jamie Pickett, we both admitted that these guys are not. I would say they might be the lowest level possible at middleweight. The guy got caught in a takedown with some attempt with some elbows. That really only happens at the lower levels in MMA. And Jordan Wright completely took advantage of Pickett's I would say mediocrity here, and he got a spectacular knockout. And this card was so good, he didn't get one of those great $75,000 bonuses.
Yeah, as you mentioned, you put it perfectly. Heading into the fight, I believe we spent like 30 seconds on the preview, but because we both agreed, it would be a Pickett knockout because Wright's resume, his the people he's fought, it just wasn't really impressive, and the guys he's lost to, Anthony Hernandez and in his Joaquin Buckley. Yeah, we thought, he's going to get in there. Jamie Pickett is going to put the hands on him and knock him out, and it was the other way around. Jordan Wright put the hands on Jamie Pickett and knocked him out, and I don't know what else to say. Then he shot me up really, really a lot. But a matchup I would like to see next for Jordan Wright is a fight versus Sam Alvey. I don't know. I'm not too sure whether he's in the UFC still, but it makes a lot. I think that makes a bit of sense for Jordan Wright because he's fighting a veteran, and at the moment Sam Alvey was he like 0-5 at the moment, so
0-5-1.
0-5-1. It's a winnable fight for Sam Alvey to potentially save his career inside the UFC, or if not, I'm not too sure whether he's already cut from the UFC.
Yeah, I don't really know about that, and to be honest, the reason they kept him around was for this kind of spot where he would be fighting a guy who's up and coming, and he usually loses, but it does reveal the character of the young prospect, and we learned a lot about Andrea Lee's character in her fight against Antonina Shevchenko. We were thinking this definitely goes to the judges. Neither has a tremendous jiu-jitsu or tremendous power, and we also said that Antonina Shevchenko is the better striker, and we were probably proven wrong in that department too. Andrea Lee was 100% the better mixed martial artist. She had a lot of moments in that first round, and in that second round, she gets to the ground and puts Antonina Shevchenko in a tight triangle. I thought it was going to be over for Antonina when she was getting smashed with elbows, and I can't believe Andrea Lee kept it in for that long. Her legs had to have been on fire, and in the end of the round, she gets her with an armbar. And let's be honest here, Antonina Shevchenko probably will never be in the top 5 of this division. On multiple occasions, she's shown major holes in her game, and Andrea Lee, while she has struggled against really high-level grapplers, we probably should have foreseen this, to be honest.
Yeah, you mentioned there she's never going to be in the top 5. And the worst possible outcome for Shashenko is her sister is one of the best women mixed martial artists that we've had inside of MMA. So she's got huge pressure on her shoulders because she's got to try and live up to the greatness of Valentina Shevchenko. It happens to everybody. If you have a sibling, a father, a mother who was an incredible MMA fighter and had great legacy, unfortunately, you've got the pressure on your shoulders to kind of live up to the hype, and the fans expect the same as what your sibling or father or mother, whatever it was, did in their MMA career. And unfortunately, Antonina Shevchenko will never be good. Be as good as Valentina Shevchenko. She needs to sort out the grappling, her takedown defense, her submission defense, and she also needs to make her striking more mixed martial arts, if that makes sense. She's more, I feel like she's still like a Muay Thai based fighter. Yes, that will work in some occasions if you're fighting maybe another a kickboxer or something like that. You might be able to, get the best of the exchanges. But when you're fighting someone like Andrea Lee, who gets in your face, roughs and toughs you up, looks to take you down, has good submission offense, it's just a bad matchup. As I mentioned, unfortunately, her sister is Valentina Shashenko, and she's got that big pressure on her shoulders to live up to the hype.
Yeah, oftentimes in the betting market, Antonina Shevchenko gets bet on simply because she has that Shevchenko last name attached to her. Some people who are serious casuals might even suspect that it's Valentina herself. But some people just assume that she's going to be like in the stratosphere of her sister, but it's very plain as day that she's not. Very happy to see Andrea Lee get a win here after some shady decisions, some tough luck, and this was probably a must-win fight for her, especially if she wanted to be talked about in that top 5 conversation that Shevchenko never will be. So good on Andrea Lee here, and I think she should actually get Viviana Araujo next. Viviana Araujo, she had a very competitive fight with Katlyn Chookagian, and that would be a very interesting matchup.
Well, it was a great fight to start the prelims.
Andrea Lee should be rewarded.
Yeah, it was a great fight on the prelims. The 3 fights on the early prelims, we both agreed that Sean Soriano would get it done. He fell short. Tucker Lutz, I agreed. I believe I said that Tucker would get it done, and you said Kevin Aguilar. I'm not too sure off the top of my head. But then in the final prelim, we Cachoeira absolutely put on a good performance versus Gina Mazzani. What are your thoughts on the 3 prelims, early prelims?
Man, I love the 3 prelims because my picks were so close to being perfect, you know. I was thinking maybe I'm going to sweep this card after these prelims. Let's get right into the final prelim. It was Gina Mazzani against Priscilla Cachoeira. I picked Cachoeira by 2nd round knockout. And early in this fight, it was very rocky. But what did I tell you guys in the preview? I said Gina Mazzani probably wins the 1st round. She's going to be able to keep her on her back. Priscilla Cachoeira has a very bad ground game. But what happens when Gina Mazzani gets hit enough? She just folds up, you know. She quits on herself. And that's what Cachoeira did. She inflicted enough damage on her to just make her quit. And Cachoeira has some real power on the feet. But against higher level competition, she's never really going to do well. As we mentioned with Antonina Shevchenko, but what I think should be next for Priscilla Cachoeira is Justine Kish. Justine Kish had a fairly close fight, and it was actually a split decision against Tracy Cortez. So that'd be an interesting fight, I guess. What do you make of this fight, and how on point was my pick, man?
Well, your pick was on point. Yes, you got it exactly right. Round 2 KO, TKO. But you know, it was a fight going into where I didn't really have much thoughts on it. Gina, as you mentioned in the preview, Gina Mazzani, you know, she had the retirement, and she got persuaded to come out of retirement by her boyfriend, and then she moved to James Krause's gym at Glory MMA. And then she came back with a win. And then, as you mentioned, she quits on herself as she starts, you know, getting hit. And it was the same situation. She starts to get hit, starts to get clipped. And then she just, you know, the confidence just seems to go out the window. And it happened in this fight. Cachoeira, no doubt, has heavy hands. We've seen it. But the ground game of hers is really lackluster. And Gina Mazzani probably knew that. And that's where she needed to get the fight to win the fight, and she didn't, and that's what went wrong. What I would like to Cachoeira next, you great matchup with Justine Kish. Definitely makes a lot of sense. She went in a tough battle versus Tracy Cortez, split decision. Definitely makes a lot of sense next. That would be the one to fight next. But Tucker Lutz versus Kevin Aguilar. I believe I went with Tucker Lutz, and you went with Kevin Aguilar, if I'm correct.
No, I actually went with Tucker Lutz with a decent amount of confidence.
Oh, I'm not too sure who I picked, so we must both pick Tucker Lutz.
I believe so. I picked Tucker Lutz because he had more ways to win. We saw that it was very clear that Kevin Aguilar's only path to victory was a fight where he would just be rushing forward with wild hooks, and that's what he did the entire fight. And once Tucker Lutz got the proper read of Kevin Aguilar's strikes, he was just able to take over the fight. That third round was very rocky for him. He got hit with some good shots. I predicted both guys would hurt each other pretty well, and that was the case here. Tucker Lutz is even better than I thought, to be honest. His striking was better than I remember on the Contender Series, and I see bright things in his future. He's on a 12-fight win streak now, and he's a very well-rounded fighter. And Kevin Aguilar might be done in the UFC. He's had some really tough fights. When you're getting outstruck by Charles Rosa on the feet, it's not a good look, and he might be done in the UFC here, especially since he has such a one-dimensional style from the looks of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely doesn't look good in the eyes of Dana White, Maynard, and the hierarchy of the UFC. Possibility it could be his last fight in the UFC, as you mentioned. He's a tough fighter. He's a warrior. He likes to stand and fight and entertain the fighters. Maybe if he does get given one more, I'd definitely still be watching because, he brings the entertainment. He likes to stand and brawl, but give him a matchup that he has, maybe a shot in. Yes, Tucker Lutz was his UFC debut, but, it was a great fight. 3 takedowns, 3 minutes of control. His striking looked good. And it was just a really good performance. 30-27, 29-28, and then 29-28. And Tucker Lutz moves on. Good prospect. At featherweight, we have so many prospects at featherweight. It's a growing division. It just looks incredible. And the bantamweight, featherweight, and flyweight are looking so good at the moment.
Yeah. What I really think would be a good test for this prospect, Tucker Lutz, is a guy who's been around the block. He's fought at featherweight and 155, and he has more power than Kevin Aguilar. I think the monster Kyle Nelson would definitely show us where Tucker Lutz is right now.
That's a great matchup, definitely for sure. But we'll move on to the final fight of the evening, and this one we both picked Sean Soriano. And this was coach versus coach.
Nope. This was the one where we had dueling picks. This is the one where we had dueling picks. Yes, yeah. I said Christos Giagos by unanimous decision.
Oh, yes, I remember. Yeah. My memory's not very good today. Christos Giagos, your pick was right then. He got the win. He got the win via submission. And it was the same story for Sean Soriano. Every time the fight gets to the ground, yes, he's a great kickboxer. He's a good striker. But Christos Giagos is the better mixed martial artist. And it was shown in this fight. The submission defense of Soriano just wasn't there, and he eventually got submitted in that Darce choke, a beautiful Darce choke, and eventually ended the fight. Christos Giagos is it is the baddest coach on the planet.
Yeah, I guess you could say that. Giagos usually gets it done by a TKO rather than submission, so that's why I was hesitant to pick it here against Sean Soriano. If Christos Giagos had more submissions on his record, I would have definitely fired here in terms of betting on Giagos by submission, because Sean Soriano might have the Burns brothers as his jiu-jitsu coaches, but the guy got submitted by 15-11 Bruce Boynton, so I was never going to pick him here, no matter how much firepower he had on the feet. And ultimately, Sean Soriano looked like he was probably the better striker. He had Giagos hurt really bad early in that fight. I thought it was heading in the direction of a Soriano knockout in the second round, but unfortunately, Giagos actually got the better on the feet later, and Soriano went for, I believe it was a desperate takedown and just got caught in that Darce. And hey, at least Sean Soriano was not fighting at his division. He's a featherweight, and he was fighting up a weight class, so he can always make that excuse for this one. So Sean Soriano probably should fight a grappler next, a striker next, unless the UFC wants to do him no favors like they did in his original UFC run.
Yeah, well, That's the end of the UFC 262 recap. It was a great night of weekend of fights. I'm trying to say, UFC 262, Oliveira versus Chandler. It did produce. Oliveira becomes the lightweight champion of the world. Michael Chandler falls short with inches. Got him rocked in that first round. Eventually fell short. And we've got some good fights this weekend. Are you looking forward to them?
I am. We have Cody Garbrandt and the great Rob Font. Rob Font had a career-defining performance in his last one against Marlon Moraes. And I had Marlon Moraes by first round guillotine with great confidence. It almost happened, but Rob Font shut him down there. And he showed that his striking has continued to improve. And with a guy who has gotten knocked out 3 times in a row before, it would not be out of the realm possibility for him to get the knockout here, but you can never count out Cody. The guy had one of the greatest performances ever against Dominic Cruz. So if he walks out as that version of himself, we could see a resurrection of Cody Garbrandt, and that would be wonderful to see.
Yeah, if you look at some of the cards on there, the fights, on the card, there's some good fights. Hayax Nan Yan fighting Carlos Esparza in the co-main event. Number 1 contender fight, possibly 115 pounds at strawweight. Whoever wins that is probably getting the next shot at Rose Namajunas. Justin Tafa returns after a close fight against Jorgen. I believe it was against Jorgen De Castro, his last one.
No.
Tafa. Oh no, Carlos Felipe. Carlos Felipe.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Returns against Jordan Vandera, who asked for a death wish against Sergio Spivak, I believe.
You want to talk about death wishes? Alexei Olenek actually signed the contract to fight Sergey Spivak. I don't know who let him sign the contract there, but if you want any kind of preview for that fight, that's going to be a murder.
Then you got Felicia Spencer returning 145 pounds, obviously featherweight, against Norma Dumont, who has lost against Megan Anderson. She went down, tried to go down to 135 pounds. Now she makes a step up once again, back to 145. David Dovrak versus Rowdy Piper, 125 pounds, a good matchup. And Jack Hermanson versus Edmund Shabazian.
Yeah, I have no clue why that's not the co-main event. That should be the co-main event. That's a high-level fight. That's actually 2 guys coming off of losses in the main event, so I don't know why they're so early in the card. That should be exciting, and Jack Hermanson should probably get the early submission there. This fight card is not to be slept on, Ben Raphael fighting Chris Barnett on this card. If you're not familiar with Barnett, this guy is a super heavyweight. This guy has he has a very padded record. We'll talk about that later in the week, but some very, very interesting matchups on this card. Make sure to tune in to our breakdown later this week.
Basically, Chris Barnett, what did they call him? The Huggly Bear or something like that. He is such a character. For the size of him, what is he, like 5'9", 5'8", 265 pounds, was north of 300 pounds once, but I think he was 330 pounds at one point when he was fighting in his MMA career. Drastically turned it around, lost a lot of weight. Now he's 265 pounds. This guy is a character. If you haven't seen him, just wait until you see the weigh-ins. I presume we're going to see something spectacular at the weigh-ins, because he likes to do something like that, and it's his UFC debut. He's definitely going to produce something funny for us to witness. This guy he's a great character. I just can't wait to see him fight inside the UFC. He's definitely going to produce a good fight. And to be fair, it wouldn't be out of the realms for him to cause an upset against Ben Brothwell. There's definitely some chance there. But we'll get into that at Thursday's show. But yeah, some great fights. Buarga versus Ricardo Ramos, Ben Rothwell as Chris Barnett, as we mentioned. Claudio Silva versus Court McGee. Victor Rodriguez and Bruno Silva. Josh Calubo versus Yilao Shao. And Yancy Medeiros versus Damir Hadzovic. And Damir Imagulov versus Rafael Alves. So, as you mentioned, some fights on there that shouldn't be slept on. This card shouldn't be slept on. It's a great night of fights. make sure you tune in Thursday with Oscar and myself to watch the preview. Any last words before we end it?
Yeah, there's no reason why you shouldn't tune into the preview. There's a lot of value in looking at the YouTube for the audio listeners, and make sure to tune in. We might include your podcast interview with Austin Vanderford later in this week.
Well, you heard the man. Austin Vanderford will be coming out today, hopefully, but we'll move on. So make sure you check out the channel. Make sure you like and subscribe. Put the bell notifications on. Check out Thursday. We're going live to do a preview. UFC Fight Night, Rob Font versus Cody Garbrandt. I'll see you there. You'll be checking in the comment section. Thank you so much for joining me, and we'll see you on Thursday.